As we mentioned, more than a third of the $787 billion stim comprised of tax cuts in various forms, some $282 billion worth. In comparison, the bill devotes more than $100 billion to public works projects, $50 billion to transportation projects. Those are some of the more detailed items in the stim. More than $87 billion to help states with their Medicaid costs. Education and job training, $69.2 billion. Extending unemployment benefits, $35.8 billion. Health coverage for the unemployed under COBRA, just over $25 billion. Food assistance, nearly $21 billion. Incentives to modernize health records, as President Obama has talked about in his speeches, $17.2 billion. Still, many prominent economists worrying and warning that even a $787 billion stim might not prove large enough, not sweeping enough, to jumpstart the massive and stalled U.S. economy. One of those economists kind enough to join us now, Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman of Princeton University and, of course, the New York Times. Once again, Dr. Krugman, thanks for your time tonight.
Great to be on.
You warned last month when this was still about $800 billion that it wasn't enough. Now it's less. How not enough is it now?
Well, you know, there's maybe $600 billion of real stimulus in this bill now, with all of the stuff that was stuffed in, the stuff that was taken out. And Congressional Budget Office says we're going to face a gap, a hole in the economy of about $2.9 trillion over the next 3 years. So you're basically trying to, you know, bridge a more than $2 trillion gap with about $600 billion of real stimulus. It's, you know, it's a help, but it's not enough.
Before we look at what might be next, or what we might look for in terms of success, what the milestones might be, what are the particulars of what's here now? What pleases you, and what is part of that $200-some billion that doesn't seem actually to have any stimulative effect, in your opinion?
Well, just about all of the spending looks like good stimulus. You know, you can argue about whether your priorities would have been exactly the same, but the aid to state governments is really important. The infrastructure spending is really good. The aid to education, the aid to health care and unemployment benefits, those things are all going to both mitigate the pain of this thing. They're going to help people who are in trouble and help institutions that are in trouble. And they're also stuff that's going to be spent. So it's actually going to do a lot to help prop up the economy. The tax cuts range from to really terrible. The making work pay, the Obama tax cut, is kind of It's not a great policy, but okay, it was a campaign promise, and it'll probably do something. The alternative minimum tax patch, that doesn't belong in this bill. It's not stimulus. Some of the other things, the home purchase tax stuff, that's not going to do stuff. So basically, the spending is all good. Half of the tax cuts are not good, but not terrible. The other half of the tax cuts, nothing much at all. So that's about where we are. And the sum of it all is that it's not a very good, you know, it's not a bad bill. I mean, you know, given sausage making and politics is not a bad bill at all, but the amount of actual meat in the sausage is not enough to feed us in this famine. All
right, so let me jump ahead to what would be next after this. Is there going to have to be a second stimulus of larger focus? Are we learning something from FDR in 1937? Don't take the foot off the gas?
Yeah, I'm almost sure that we're going to have to come back for more. And there's a question, you know, will those 3 Republican senators go for more? Is it possible, now it comes to parliamentary procedure, to put something that's in an appropriations bill so that it isn't subject to the filibuster? But yeah, it's very likely there's going to be a stimulus 2.0 to deal with this.
Give me one understandable to the non-economist measure that will give us some hint that this is having a good, positive, more than doing nothing effect in the near future.
Well, you know, it's actually you're chasing a moving target. So the economy is heading down steeply, and what this bill is going to do probably is make it head down not quite as steeply. It's not going to be a roaring recovery from this bill. It's not going to be a roaring recovery probably anything we do. So you're going to be looking for things like, you're going to be seeing some of those infrastructure projects start. That'll be good to see. You'll be seeing that states which have been warning about dire budget cuts will relent on some of the things that they were going to have to do otherwise. But, you know, it's not going to be morning in America anytime in the next 2 years.
Last point, it's really almost not pertinent to the stimulus itself, right. But has any of the criticism that this thing has hit surprised you more than the selling of the idea that FDR caused the Great Depression?
You know, that's been out there. There is a little bit. Some of the guys on the right seem to think that FDR had a time machine, and so he went back to 1929 and made the thing happen. I guess it was all expectations of FDR's coming that caused it. But no, it's awesome. Well, you know, history is a battlefield.
Well, you know, when Churchill caused Macbeth to abdicate,
right?
The Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman. It's always a pleasure and an education at the same time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.